Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
Immediately following the most intense rocket shelling from Gaza since 2014, a relative calm along the Israel-Gaza border does seem to have returned. And despite Israeli officials denying the claim, Hamas media reports that a ceasefire has been reached. But although Hamas says the violence has ended, 9,000 rioting Palestinians over the weekend say something different. Once again, Gazans were lighting massive tire fires, throwing stones, explosives, and Molotov cocktails at troops, destroying and penetrating the security barrier, and more. Nearly 300 Palestinians were wounded in the latest clashes with Israeli border forces, and 3 were reportedly killed. Elsewhere, surrounding the Strip, at least 5 fires were set in Israel when incendiary kites and balloons were sent over on Saturday. All were quickly brought under control, but one did cause a power outage at a kibbutz and its surrounding areas after landing on a group of power lines. Now, during the height of the latest fighting, many were afraid that Israel would launch an expansive ground offensive. In less than 24 hours, Hamas sent over 180 rockets aimed indiscriminately at Israeli civilians in the south. Some reached even as far as Beersheba, around 25 miles from the Strip. Israel in turn attacked some 150 Hamas targets in Gaza, but at least for now, a full-out ground war like that of 2014's Operation Protective Edge is not yet in the works. Defense Minister Lieberman and Prime Minister Netanyahu have both made it clear that Israel is prepared for such an eventuality. But now, though Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz has also claimed that toppling Hamas is an option that's closer than ever, further reports seem to indicate that a large war will most likely at least wait for the completion of the ground barrier along the Strip. Also reportedly factoring into the reasons to not enter Gaza with force is the Syrian-Iranian threats from the north. According to a report following an emergency security cabinet meeting last Thursday, Israel cannot afford to be spread too thin, and the north is a far more dangerous place. Speaking of Syria, Syrian state news reported early Saturday morning that state air defense systems fired upon a hostile target breaching Syrian airspace near Damascus. Sana, the Syrian state news agency, has suggested that Israel was behind the latest attack, as Israel has indeed hit multiple Syrian and Iranian targets in Syria in the past, specifically in efforts to keep Iranian regime forces and arms away from the Israeli border. Israel, as per policy, however, has neither confirmed nor denied any involvement in the latest Syrian incursion. But after years of Iranian efforts to establish a foothold in Syria, plus recent aggression and threats in the region, it wouldn't be surprising. In fact, in the wake of United States sanctions against Iran returning to full effect, Iran has seemingly stepped up its aggressive behavior. Aside from threatening to close the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb and the Straits of Hormuz, Iran has just conducted their first intercontinental ballistic missile tests, or ICBM tests, this year. According to the United States officials on Friday, Iranian naval forces fired Fateh 110 short-range ballistic missiles during an exercise on the Strait of Hormuz. Nearly a third of all the world's oil passes through that strategic strait, which lies between Iran and the UAE and Oman. Closing it militarily could lead to a global war. The missiles were tested shore to shore, right over the Strait of Hormuz and into a target in the desert. Not to worry though, the United States military spokesman said the U.S. is monitoring this closely and will continue to work with our partners to ensure freedom of navigation and free flow of commerce in international waters. Israel, too, just 2 weeks ago, threatened war with Iran should the Red Sea Strait of Bab el-Mandeb be closed by the hardline Islamic regime. In July, conservative Rabbi Dov Haiyun was picked up in the early morning hours by Haifa police to be questioned over a marriage that he allegedly conducted outside the auspices of the chief rabbinate. Haiyun's arrest sparked waves of controversy around the country as well as in the Jewish diaspora as a symbol of ultra-Orthodox coercion in the Jewish religion. But Haiyun was released shortly after his detention, saying that he no longer thinks he's at risk for further questioning, and that other rabbis will probably not face any criminal investigations for similar charges either. How does he know? Well, it may just be wishful thinking, or it may be that Haiyun hopes to push back through the political sphere. According to Meretz party leader Tamar Zandberg, Haiyun is set to run on the party's electoral ticket this October. Meretz currently has no seats in the Haifa City Council, and Haiyun previously ran for the council with the Equal Haifa coalition, which also failed to garner any official positions. But this new partnership with Meretz may finally bear fruit. Writing in a recent Facebook post, Rabbi Haiyun said that Meretz was a natural home for him, and that together they will make a true difference. The United Nations Human Rights Council is now set to receive a new human rights chief, as Jordanian diplomat Zeid Ra'ad al-Hussein's 4-year term comes to an end. With a long history of allegations of bias against Israel, the Jewish state has refrained from becoming a member country of the 47-member council, and the United States, for similar reasons, withdrew their membership from the UNHRC in June 2018. But with two-time former Chilean President Michelle Bachelet now preparing to take up the role, perhaps the council's policies will begin to show some welcome changes. The progressive Bachelet is the first female president of Chile, and she was elected twice, the second time with over 62% of the vote. During her political career, Bachelet also served as the Minister of Health, the Minister of National Defense, and as the first head of the United Nations Women Organization. She's fought for education reforms, women's rights, abortion rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and more. And it's with this history that she was elected by the General Assembly, and much to Secretary General Guterres' delight. As for Israel, it's unclear how Bachelet's leadership in the UN Human Rights Council will change its policy, but in the past, she has shown a fair hand towards Israeli issues. Still, as United States Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley said last week, the UN has failed to adequately address major human rights crises and to stop its chronic disproportionate obsession with Israel. Quote, "It's up to Ms. Bachelet to speak out against these failures rather than to accept the status quo." End quote.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.